All right, YouTubers, in this video we're going to do a oil flush, oil change, filter change, and see what happens. Just at the outset here, I know everybody talks about not doing an engine flush. I see tons of videos out there with the word don't, D-O-N-T, across the whole thing. I've had no issues doing oil flushes in the past. I'm not sure where the concern comes from. We'll see if this ends up being a problem on this car, but I've rolled the dice on other cars that you've probably seen on my channel, and I have yet to have an issue with doing an oil flush. I think the biggest thing for me is making sure as much of the fluid gets taken out when it is drained, meaning I'm not quickly trying to put the plug back in so that I can save time. No, I want every drop to come out until it won't drop no more. Sounds like a song. Anyway, we're gonna get started on this. Let me show you what we have, what parts I got for the project. All right, here's the parts list. I have 10 quarts, even though it only takes 8.5 quarts of Castrol Edge 5W40. I've got the 10, oil filter, and the engine flush. So we're going to start with the engine flush, but anyway. Also have an 8mm hex. That is for the drain plug on the oil pan. I have a 6mm hex, and that is for the oil plug on the oil filter. And I'll walk through all of that with you. And then I have a 24mm socket, and that's for the oil filter housing, so I can take it off and replace the filter. So when I got the car, one of the first things I did was change the engine oil. In fact, it was the very first thing I did. And when I looked under the cap there, engine oil cap, cover, whatever, engine looked pretty clean, but the oil was very filthy when I checked it with the dipstick. Very, very filthy. So changing the oil when I first got it, I put in 5W30 versus 5W40 to kind of maybe thinking it might thin out any kind of sludge or something in there. And then this process is just another step further toward cleaning the engine. And it may be perfectly clean. This oil has been in. So I've added the contents of the Liqui Moly into the engine, and I've set the timer for 13 minutes on this phone. So we're gonna let it run and see what we get. So far I don't hear any odd sounds coming from the engine. It's doing its thing. So we'll pick up at the oil drain. Just a little over a minute left. Still purring like a kitten. No issues. Ready to drain it out. We'll take a look at the oil as it drains out. So right here is the Hex 8 that I showed you a minute ago. And right here is the Hex 6 that we're going to use to drain the oil out before we remove the oil filter. So let's get on it. We're going to drain this first because this will allow us to see the condition of the oil without it being everywhere. Oil pan is aligned. Again, the oil was fairly new, so here it is. Doesn't look too bad. It's not brand new oil, but it doesn't look that bad. Again, oil looks pretty good. So just letting it drain. I'm gonna let every ounce possible drain from this, just to get the Liqui Moly out of the system to the best degree that I can. So we'll let this drain for a while and we'll pick back up. While this is draining, I'm going to pull off the oil filter housing with the 24mm socket. So on this engine, I can't really tell you that I see much difference as far as the liquid moly cleaning. It wasn't that dirty. It might be a little more aluminum color, but it was definitely not, there was no gunk under the cap. So, yeah, just gonna wait for it to finish draining and get underneath there. So for the O-ring, to get that off, I have this pick. I can't film it one-handed, but you're gonna take the pick and pull out that O-ring. And you can do the same thing for the O-ring right here. All right. So the O-rings have been oiled. Now I'm gonna put them back on. All right, so I'm gonna tighten this down just snug. Doesn't need to be too tight, maybe 6 foot-pounds. And then the oil filter housing itself is gonna tighten to 18 foot-pounds along with the oil drain plug, 18 foot-pounds. And we're going to torque this one down to 18 foot-pounds. So the oil and filter are back on, everything cleaned and put back. Okay, so the engine oil has been flushed and the oil is changed to Castrol Edge 5W40 full synthetic. So one thing to note, with the flush, I have heard most everyone, talk about not doing oil flushes on these cars. And I just did an oil flush, taking a big chance, taking a big gamble and rolling the dice here. And I can't tell anything is different with the car. The car purrs like a kitten, as you heard. Just not sure why anybody recommends against an engine oil flush. The only thing I can say is that people have a habit of follow the leader, and somebody said don't do it, so they don't do it. Somebody read that it's bad and they go with that. And in reality, nothing's happened. This car's not blowing blue smoke. This car's not blowing white smoke. I did an oil engine flush on it. The crap went out the drain plug and out the filter, got changed, and the car runs and drives just fine. So I'm not sure the dilemma here, but for my car, the engine oil flush is no problem. I would go for it if I were y'all. Anyway, if you like the video, like the video.